I'm afraid to. I'm afraid to do it.
We're talking fantasy, our fantasy hockey league. Our daily roster adjustments. Howdy all. First, we'll start just with the congratulating begrudgingly the Houston Astros for winning the World Series with a dominant 2 innings. And I've never seen, Russ, a team have more people on base and choke. I mean, for those who were saying that Aaron Judge struck out too much in the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Cody Bellinger, what was it, 16, 17 times? And
it was ridiculous. I get that you like his power, but I here's what I want to say. First off, congrats to the people in Houston. I mean, I spent a year there in college, and I felt an affinity to people down there for sure, and got to know the culture a little bit, and I appreciated it. I didn't appreciate going to my only football game at the Astrodome and watching them beat the Jets, but I appreciated everything else. Watching the Oilers beat the Jets back in the day, but it is a good baseball town, and it's weird in my brain still to sort of see the changeover for them as an American League team, but at least they've won now, and that's good for them. The one thing they did yesterday, and I felt like they won this game in the first inning, honestly.
Yes. The
Dodgers just are sitting waiting for that 3-run homer. They just are. They're that team. And you can't be that team when you're in the postseason because the bats go dry. You see like Bellinger. When the bats dry out, you've got to have guys that make good outs. And there were some great outs by Houston, right side of the infield, runners advanced. Right. They didn't have to bunt. I'm a fan of bunting, and I know that the younger people don't like bunting. But when you hit to the right side of the infield, it's as good as a bunt. And so they did those things. They manufactured 2 runs in that first inning, even though they may have choked in other innings, like they had bases loaded and they couldn't do anything with it. Same as the Dodgers, but 2 of the guys were on base because they got hit. I just felt like the Dodgers didn't know how to move runners along. They didn't know how to do any of that. No. And they kept waiting for somebody to hit a 3-run homer or a grand slam. And that's why I think that's why they lost.
Well, I think it was Smoltz said during the broadcast, especially with Bellinger up in a couple situations, he's trying to hit a 7-run home run. And it's like, I'm not saying, choke up.
Swing up, hit a base hit, man.
Right. I'm not saying choke up on the bat like Brett Butler and slap it. But, I mean, you cut back on your swing a little bit. Like go to left field like he did in the playoffs previously. He was just trying to jack the ball out of the park. And it's, it was just stupid. And
all right, now let's take 1 minute for trash talk for Jets Buffalo. Now, in a lot of other years, I would be just killing you, right? Because Buffalo is one of my hated teams. Buffalo and Miami are actually more hated in my mind than New England. Like, I hate Belichick.
Right.
But when I growing up, New England wasn't an issue. It was always Buffalo and Miami. So they're really in my mind still 2 teams I don't like. And
because they're in your neighborhood in terms of mediocrity in the AFC East. They've always, they've been elbowing the same territory for the last 40 years.
Knee-jerk reaction, I always want to beat the Bills, but I don't hate this Bills team to the point where if the Bills even won the division, I wouldn't care that much. Yeah. I'm sort of in that boat right now because the Jets are in nowhere land, so it's like, whatever. I hope they win the game, but if they don't, I'm not going to kill you on it.
I mean, the Bills would be doing the Jets a favor in terms of their end goal. I mean, if the Bills win, it helps the Jets get in their pursuit of the quarterback.
That's true. Yep.
But this is here's the point of the Buffalo fan, and I'm still immune to it because I'm still skeptical. But they're just starting to get people excited now. They're 5-2.
Well, they got a receiver.
They're in the playoff race. This is the time that they usually choke, that they usually will lose to a team that they shouldn't, and then all of a sudden there's the great realization that this team is not that good. They've done a lot of positive things. They've gotten rid of a few players. I mean, I said online after they traded Marcel Darius, their defensive tackle, that convenience stores in Western New York were heartbroken because there would be no more bong-induced munchie runs, on the weekends because this guy's been busted for smoking dope a couple times.
Yeah,
and he is a dope. But they've gotten rid of some malcontents on their roster. Their coach seems to be progressive, not an idiot like Rex Ryan. But they sort of like they got rid of a wide receiver. Now they've brought a wide receiver in. It's sort of like at cross purposes. It looked like they were tanking, and now all of a sudden,
because I think they did such a bad job of tanking when they saw the wide receiver available. They're like, you know what? Now we can make the playoffs. We might as well go for it.
McDermott knows them, and so does the general manager from they're both from Carolina, and Benjamin was from Carolina. So if they didn't have knowledge of him off the field, I don't think they would have.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
Yeah.
As much as Jet fans are kind of thinking and hoping that they're going to reach for that quarterback in the draft, I got to be honest, the reports coming in on these college quarterbacks are not great this year. They're not. I mean, Barkley could be a great quarterback because he's got the running ability, but I'm not sure. But a lot of the other guys are underwhelming at the moment. I think they're going to pay Kirk Cousins. That's what I think the Jets are going to do.
Well, supposedly there are rumors out there that the Steelers may go after Kirk Cousins if Roethlisberger retires. That was the report of somebody. So
yeah,
and we're getting off the subject here. We're going to talk hockey. I just wanted to.
We're talking now.
So it is Bills Jets tonight. No more baseball. There's plenty of hockey games. We'll talk about the games from last night.
Movie, so my game will be delayed. So do not try and trash talk me on message via messenger or text because I won't answer.
The previews, the reviews on that have been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, November the 2nd, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportology.
And I'm Michael Agello, not Thor. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. There were a few games in the NHL last night. We'll start with Pittsburgh-Edmonton because we, again, bemoaned the fact that this was not on NBCSN or on NHL Network. And it wasn't exactly, again, this is the only two times that these two teams met. The first was a 2-1 overtime victory for the Penguins on a Phil Kessel overtime goal. And that wasn't exactly one that would be preserved at the Hockey Hall of Fame. And this one was pretty much the same, 3-2. Not a phenomenal game. There was a phenomenal play in the game. A Connor McDavid pass of Draisaitl on a goal that was just incredible. That had everybody abuzz on Twitter.
Yeah.
But again, Pittsburgh wins. Edmonton loses. Edmonton only scores 2 goals. McDavid is pretty much held in check. And when you do that, you usually win.
Yeah, Edmonton's got problems. They do. Chiarelli is the kind of guy that might precipitate an early season trade if he feels like the mojo is off, and the mojo's off. I mean, let's face it. Yeah. Did Yamamoto play in this game?
I'll check, but
I know they sat him for the previous couple.
Yeah, and if they did play him. He did play. Okay. But the thing is, they're closing in on 10 games, and if they're sitting him out, it's very possible they're going to send him back to the Western.
I don't think they are, though. I think he's there for the long haul, and I think they just, for whatever reason, they wanted him to see whatever it is he was going to see. So
remember, this is the team that kept Draisaitl for 40 games and sent him back. And for 40, I think it's 40 games is the magic mark in terms of a year counting towards UFA. They'll burn the first year of entry level if they go past 10. But that might be the mark that they're really concerned with is burning counting the progress towards UFA.
Seems that way, and so, but again, I'm not happy with the Edmonton Oilers. I know that's not a great statement to make, but because a lot of people are down on them, but I was down on them before that. I told you when I had been watching them, even their defense just has no offensive push whatsoever, and I think when all this, I guess, blame goes to sort of McDavid and even Nugent Hopkins, like when their lines aren't scoring, teams a lot of times can get scoring from defense to bail them out. They don't get that on this team. They're not getting that.
Well, I mean, and now you raise an interesting question here because, I mean, we talked a little bit about, and I'm going to reference Elliot Friedman's 30 Thoughts later in the podcast, in the webcast. The mention of Puljujarvi and how Puljujarvi is playing in the AHL right now, and maybe possibly him being used as a trade piece to get. Now the question is, do they go after an offensive defenseman, which will be tough to get. But, if you're trading a guy who's a top 5 pick, that might get somebody that could actually really help them on the blue line. Or is this simply they need more scoring on the wings, move Draisaitl to center like we were saying yesterday, go out and get yourself a right winger. Chris Kreider was mentioned, but there are other people out there. Talk to Vegas, see if you can get James Neal or Evander Kane or somebody who is out there that could be a rental at the deadline.
They need more scoring, but I think they need scoring from the blue line as much as anything. I think if their blue line were to be more involved and not such a dead zone when they pass the puck back to sort of get something going, I think it would ignite everybody. So I think that's their biggest problem. Maybe you do have to trade an asset for that, or maybe it's going to be in the draft. It might, fans don't want to hear it because I know they were thinking Stanley Cup or whatever this year, but if somehow this team tanks and not on purpose, it could be the best thing for them. Because it could be like when Pittsburgh got that final, top pick that they didn't necessarily need, and not Sprung. I'm talking about before that. And so, that could be a big deal.
Well, okay. I mean, here, and most deals right now are centering around Vegas because Vegas is pretty much, there's been a lot of success with Vegas, but, at least from my point of view, that's gravy. But if George McPhee gets a chance to trade one of these veteran guys for somebody who's young, who's really good, a really good prospect, he'd be stupid if he doesn't do it right now. Let's just put it out there. If Peter Chiarelli calls up George McPhee and offers him Jesse Puljujarvi for James Neal, if I'm McPhee, I do it in 2 seconds.
No, I do not do that. No.
If you're McPhee or if you're Chiarelli.
If I'm Edmonton, if I'm McPhee, I get why you want to do it, but I have to look at it from both sides. I can't just look at it one-sided.
So you think Edmonton's would be stupid?
It would be very short-sighted, stupid. Yes.
But if you're McPhee and you're in the Vegas Golden Knights scenario,
yeah, then you do it. Absolutely.
Okay.
You're right in saying that, but I just felt like it needed another side. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, sometimes when you do have a team like this, like Edmonton, that looks like they're on the cusp, there are many times they do get hit in the mouth, smacked in the mouth, and take a step back. And this could be one of those years. We don't know yet.
Now, Pittsburgh, they're playing back-to-back. They're playing the Alberta two-step. Edmonton Wednesday, Calgary Thursday. I believe it'll be the NHL debut for Tristan Jarry because they called him up.
They did, yeah. It'll be his NHL debut, I believe.
Yeah. Now, again, I've followed him just basically because I'm always interested in goaltenders, and he was regarded last year or even the year before as close to being as good a prospect in goal as Matt Murray. Now, Matt Murray obviously has done incredibly well in the NHL and has won 2 Stanley Cups, so you can't take that away from him. And I'm not saying that Tristan Jarry is going to unseat him as the number 1 goaltender because, no, Matt Murray is that. But this is a good young goaltender who they've had to go to maybe a little sooner than they thought because they made a miscalculation on Antti Niemi. And it'll be interesting to see how he deals with this because he's not going to get regular work as a number 2 behind Matt Murray.
No, Jarry's really good. It goes back to his Edmonton Oil Kings days. Yeah. But he was a backup there, and that's the big thing. Like, Jarry was underutilized for, I think, 2 seasons there. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden he got hot. He was the number 1 guy. He was in the top prospects game. I noticed him. He got drafted. He's been on this like sort of slow path, but not really a slow path because he's a goalie. And it does take a while. And so it wouldn't shock me if he comes up and has a mammoth game. And then if he does, then that may precipitate Pittsburgh into, making him the backup full time and forgetting about their other plans.
The game of the night, at least the primetime game of the night on NBC, was the Chicago Blackhawks and the Philadelphia Flyers.
Was that even a game?
Yeah, the rematch of the 2010 Stanley Cup final. Not really. 3-0 Chicago, a 35-save shutout for Corey Crawford. Artem Anisimov.
And I watched that on and off, right? And at times it looked ridiculously easy for Crawford, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mean, honestly, in the 15, 20 minutes that I watched it, flipping back between that and the World Series, I didn't see him make a tough save. And, it was nothing through the first. Anisimov and Taves get goals in the second period. DeBrincat adds a goal in the third. Again, I'm impressed by the Blackhawks' ability to reload their organization with young players. I'm still skeptical of their defense. I mean, I don't think I'm not a big Connor Murphy fan. I like, obviously.
I got to tell you, nobody in Philly's a Connor Murphy fan today because he leveled Taylor Lear. And this is something I brought up in an article and on this show. If you remember, I like Taylor Lear. But I also told you that he is a fast, sort of defenseless guy against bigger guys like that. Whereas when, if it was going to be him or Laterra's not going to get you a lot of points, but he is much bigger and much stronger. And this is the downside of Taylor Lear now because he got rocked last night. And, already he's not really producing point-wise. So, for all the Taylor Lear love, I don't know if he could hack it at the NHL level because I just don't know. If he's going to take 2 more hits like that, he's going to be in trouble. He's played 11 games and he has 2 points.
Now, Quenneville has shifted around his lines. I mean, at the beginning of the year, they had Kane playing with Ryan Hartman, and I cannot remember the young center who got hurt.
You're talking about Nick Schmaltz.
Nick Schmaltz, yes, thank you. Now Kane is back with Anisimov. They had DeBrincat playing with Taves and Panik one game. Now DeBrincat was playing with Hayden the next game. So there's sort of a feeling out process right now on the part of Quenneville when it comes to his forward lines.
I think they were even messing around with and may have used Schmaltz on the top line one game too.
They might have. I know that Hartman had 4 points in his first game and has sort of tailed off since then.
Yeah.
But he's still an effective player. But where I'm a little concerned with them, and that's why I brought up Murphy, is on the blue line. You've got Seabrook, you've got Keith. They're experienced. They're really good defensemen. But really, after that, they're wholly dependent on their imports, the Forslings, the Kempneys. They brought in Cody Franzen as an invite to training camp and signed him. Murphy. So they're not particularly strong on the blue line. Maybe the team concept for defense is working because they're not bad defensively, but I think if they're going to be serious contenders in the West, they're probably going to have to add a body or two.
And they will. You know how they do it. They'll add somebody at the deadline. I'm not so worried about that. I think this game was worrisome for the Flyers for a lot of different reasons. Like I think a lot of people were sort of thinking, hey, they may, have finally found the right lineup. They still missed Andrew McDonald. I mean, they're going to miss him until he's back.
It's funny. 2 years ago, they were ready to run Andrew McDonald out of the state because of the contract, and now they miss him.
The fans don't miss him, but the team does.
Yeah.
The fans booed him on opening night when they announced his name. It was awful.
Jeez,
so
that's ridiculous.
I know, but that's sort of where it's at. But they miss him defensively, and that's going to be a big thing. When you look at this game, it's like, how does Travis Konecny go through a game without registering a shot on net? Like, that seems impossible, but it happened. Couturier didn't score this game, which he's not going to score every game, right? Just, again, you look down the line, and they didn't have a lot of shots. Claude Giroux, 3 shots. He's got to have more shots. Sorry. Voracek, 2 shots. Come on. This is Jake Voracek we're talking about. Filppula looked like he actually was doing okay at times. He got 19 minutes, which, for him, that's a lot.
Filppula was noticeable when I saw Philadelphia and Toronto last week. I mean, he had a pretty good game. Just the one question, because they've locked up Giroux, they've locked up Voracek, they locked up Couturier on which looks like a great deal right now with Couturier scoring more. Wayne Simmons is making less than $4 million, and he's up after next year.
That's the biggest bargain in hockey.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to. I mean, let's just say there would be a lot of teams interested in him because he plays with physicality and he has a really good skill set. There will be teams out there lining up for him if he even gets close to free agency. I mean, is there any? I mean, they can't talk extension until next July, but is that a concern of the Flyers to get him locked up?
I think it is because they do market him a lot. I believe they will lock him up, and he's a great guy in the room, as they say, and he really is for what you see on the ice, as far as him sometimes looking like a frantic, overly aggressive guy. He's the opposite off the ice, and so I think he's the perfect mix for Philly, and I think they will re-sign him. I see Gudas went out in that game with an injury. They can't afford that. Like Mark Alt's already playing. I don't know if Morin's healthy or not yet, but they're getting very thin quickly on the blue line, and they've got to play St. Louis.
Not only are they thin, they're inexperienced. I mean,
Yes.
Gudas and McDonald are their two most experienced defensemen. So you got a bunch of first and second year guys out there.
Now I'm going to bring up something that you probably remember me bringing up earlier in the year when I was coming out of training camp. I felt like they should have maybe picked up a veteran defenseman, somebody that could sort of be hanging around for these kinds of situations, like a Nick Schultz type. And you know what? That's exactly what they need now. Because I'm not sure bringing up another young guy is the answer, because they have so much youth in that lineup already. They almost need a veteran defenseman.
Yeah, and there's nobody sitting back. They could bring up T.J. Brennan, but he's not an NHLer anymore, or maybe never was. Okay, the game that I paid particular attention to was the Anaheim Ducks and the Maple Leafs. A 3-1 victory for the Leafs. Not to say that this was a must victory, but based on the fact that Getzlaf, Kessler, Fowler, and Bieksa were all out of the lineup. I mean, that if Toronto had lost that game or not shown up, that there would be significant trouble, for Mike Babcock, because I believe that he would have probably lost it a little bit, because you have to take advantage of teams when they have a lot of their star players, and especially their top two centers and their best defensemen out of the lineup. And Anaheim, without those players, I mean, there's not much.
Scoring gets tough, right?
Yeah, then there's not much of an offensive attack. They really couldn't get into the Leafs zone. Not to say the Leafs played a phenomenal game. They played okay. But Patrick Marleau scores in the third period, breaks a 1-1 tie, scores his 100th career game winner, which is that's a phenomenal stat. But he's actually having a pretty good year. But the interesting thing about Marleau right now, in the last couple games, Mike Babcock has used him at center. And that was never the intent. That when they signed him in July, there was never any talk of him playing up the middle. But they've been so displeased with Tyler Bozak's play early in the year that they've had to shift Marleau to center. I don't think it's going to be permanent.
No, but he's like such a veteran that it's good that they can do that.
Well, I mean, it's let's just say this: it's a temporary move, and he's experienced up the middle because he played most of his career up the middle, so you can get away with it on a short-term basis. I don't think he wants to play center, but he's a team guy, and he's not going to complain. If they were really concerned about themselves up the middle, the move would be to move Nylander to the middle. But I don't think they want to do that. One, because he makes up the part of that big line with Matthews, and they don't want to mess with that. But two, his contract is up, and I don't think they want to move him up the middle. And if he scores big points, that'll mean more money that they have to pay. So I think that's one of the reasons.
No, this is a good win for the Leafs. They needed to get back on the winning track. They played a team that was weakened. They did what you would expect to do against a team that was weakened. Had they lost that game, then Babcock really would have been killing them. So, I don't think any worse of them now, but I at least think, okay, they are still for real. Yeah. But for how real, I don't know yet.
Yeah, and that was their first victory in California in over 2 years. They've never really done well in on those West Coast trips. And I'm not going to pat myself on the back because I actually have a sore shoulder right now. But when the lineup changes happened after the San Jose game, all the analytics crowd were pumping their chests and going, yay, when Connor Carrick and Josh Levo were put in the lineup, and Roman Polak, who is the poster boy for anti-analytics, was sat down. And I said, this is temporary. This is only going to be like a game or two. and Roman Polak is in the game against LA tonight. This is what tells you is that Babcock right now is shifting things around. He's putting Kasperi Kapanen in tonight for Levo. He's putting in Polak for Carrick. So he's just looking for a winning combo. Plus, this is a guy who was rehabbing for 5-6 months, and whenever I get a chance for us to stick it to the analytics crowd, I love to do it simply because sometimes I don't understand their point of view.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't try and stick it to the analytics crowd like you do, but I get what you're saying. You know what I felt like was the game of the night, and I just watched a little more of it now, was the Predators Sharks. Not because of the score, but because the Sharks really played like the Sharks that had been making it to the Stanley Cup, and there was a lot of heat in that game. There were 2 fights. The one worry about the Sharks, and this to me now is a worry, the hit where Vlasic got hit in the corner didn't seem to be that bad of a hit, but the result looked horrible from a head injury standpoint, and I'm worried now because Vlasic's starting to get beat up a little bit more the last couple of years, if you've noticed.
Well, he's being used now more than ever as a matchup defenseman against the other team's top lines. So he's being like against the Leafs, he was playing against Matthews whenever they could.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a premier defender, so that only makes sense. But when you're logging 25 minutes a night, probably killing penalties, matching up against the other team's top line, you're going to get weakened. You're going to get beat up. So, I mean, now I don't know if he has a concussion history or not. I don't believe he does, but you're going to take more abuse.
I think he's had a couple.
I'm
not 100.
I'm not 100% sure on that. But the one thing with the Sharks, they were very impressive against Toronto. They still have Martin Jones, who's a really good goaltender. Brent Burns has not had a good start this year. He's struggled offensively. I don't even think he has a goal yet. And, offensively, they miss Marlowe a little bit. They're making a little bit of a transition, giving Donskoy more of a responsibility. Timo Meyer is up there now. LeBanc is getting more of offensive opportunities. But in the end, they're really relying on Pavelski, on Couture, and still on Thornton. So can they battle a team like Anaheim, who is loaded? Right now they're injured, but like when it comes down to the playoffs, can they battle a team like that? The one thing I have to say that I didn't mention, Edmonton, when we were talking about Edmonton and Pittsburgh, Edmonton is 31st in the league in scoring.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is, that's incredibly. That is unbelievable to have a team that had the only 100-point scorer in the league last year, and now they're 31st in goals.
That's disappointing.
It's shocking. It's completely shocking.
So last February, it looked like Vlasic may have had a concussion, although the Sharks said he didn't. He missed some time. Okay. So that's probably what I was thinking about when that happened. So we'll keep an eye on it. It was a high hit from Johansson. I didn't think it was that bad. Then Johansson fought Pavelski, which again wasn't much of a fight because Johansson really can't fight. And then there was a fight later with Austin Watson and Dylan DeMeo. And now, but here's the thing. And I see announcers around, and they may not like that I'm going to say this. And I don't know who's doing the TV broadcast for San Jose, but I hate when they call guys by their first name. Hate it. It doesn't matter if it's my team or not. You should never be calling a guy by his first name, because you know what? There are people that are watching that tune in from Game Center and all kinds of other things, and they kept saying Dylan, and I'm thinking there is nobody with a last name of Dylan on that team, and that
Brendan Dillon.
Maybe.
But I don't know if their numbers are close. But
hold on. That may have been it. I forgot about Brendan Dillon. Never mind. Hold on.
Yeah, but I know that it's Jamie Baker is the color commentator, because I unfortunately here's while Russ is looking that up. Here is a pet peeve of mine, folks, and tell me if you are a purchaser of the NHL Center Ice package, and there's a bunch of games on, but when they get done with their 7 o'clock, 7:30 games, and they're showing the late night games, they don't give you, with some of these games, they give you the home and away broadcast option.
Right.
They for the Toronto San Jose, they said home and away broadcast option, and then they showed the San Jose broadcast on both channels. So if you wanted to watch, and because I cover the team, I want to watch the Toronto broadcast because it's more centered on the Leafs. I couldn't do it because the center ice package chose not to show that broadcast. So it just seems to me that they do that a lot with Canadian broadcasts. They will go to Fox Sports West and won't show the TSN or the Sportsnet broadcast, and it's a pet peeve of mine. But,
no, it's a good pet peeve. I mean,
Now, if you get Game Center Live on the NHL on NHL.com, you get both broadcasts. You can choose the one that you want. You can listen to the radio if you want. But
do we think this is a possible bandwidth issue, and whoever your cable provider is decides, I'm not going to devote all that bandwidth to that? Is that possible?
It may be something like that because my particular cable carrier is Spectrum,
and they don't have the best reputation, right?
Yeah, they don't, and I know that the NHL for this year, for the first year, I believe, with certain carriers like DirecTV, if you buy the Center Ice package, you get Game Center Live on your computer or on your phone for free.
Yeah.
Spectrum does not provide that,
okay.
which really stinks. But anyway,
yeah, it was Brendan Dillon last night, so my apologies.
Oh, so it was Brendan Dillon.
I was wrong. Yeah. So
a broken clock is right twice a day. That happens.
Yeah. There is some serious stuff going on in the chat room here. I'll just address people want to know about the Rangers' defensive alignment or lack thereof.
Let me bring this up. Let's just mention the one other game that was on the schedule yesterday, because if I ignore the Vancouver Canucks, the people will say it's because I'm biased against them. But they lost 2-0 to the New Jersey Devils, who are now 9-2.
And 9-2, they're a fluke, right?
Yeah, they're terrible. They're just unbelievably bad. And at perfect timing, New Jersey plays their next game in Edmonton, so Taylor Hall gets to go back and hopefully puts a hat trick on the Edmonton Oilers in revenge for trading him. Okay, so Elliot Friedman in his 30 thoughts postulated about the New York Rangers.
Big words, Mike. People, listening and watching.
He speculated about the New York Rangers and where they are right now, and we've talked about that. You've got an aging Lundqvist. You've got a couple players like Nash who are UFA. He said that they have a couple young players like Elias Anderson, who's doing really well in the SHL. Scheidel, who was with them for a time before getting sent to the American Hockey.
Hartford. He's doing well in Hartford too.
Yeah, and Shishkin is the goalie of the future, supposedly. At least people think he's.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: with a Russian goalie, you can never call him the goalie of the future until he's actually in North America.
Right.
That's my rule of thumb for that.
Right. But what Friedman was speculating on is whether this is the time that the Rangers consider sort of a reset, because you've got a couple players. You've got Kreider's got 2 years left in his contract. You've got Zuccarello with a year left after this year. Ryan McDonough with a year left after this year. And is this the time that they, do what Toronto did and a couple other teams did and trade?
They won't do it.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. So you think there's no scenario possible that this is the
yes,
team?
You know what? The one scenario possible, if somehow Henrik Lundqvist got injured and they didn't think he'd be back for the rest of the season, then that scenario would be possible, because then they would be like, okay, we don't know what the status of him is anymore. We don't have a goalie in the system anymore. Right. Pavlik's now our goalie. Are we going back to the days of where Mike Dunham was the starting goalie for the Rangers? Like, that's where they would be at, right? And it wasn't that long ago, but it was pre-Lundqvist. And so I think that's the only possible scenario where that happens, because otherwise you would have to trade Lundqvist if he's healthy, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere, and I don't think they want to trade him.
Because I'll tell you right now, if for teams out there that are looking for a top 2 defenseman, if all of a sudden Ryan McDonough is on the trade block and all of a sudden he's being offered around, line up because that's a guy that's a guy who would be a difference maker for a team like Toronto or a team like Edmonton. Looking for a defenseman. I mean, I think he's one of I think he's a great defenseman. I still think he's really good.
He has nobody to be paired with. That's the problem. So like when you paired him with Brendan Smith the other night, it was awful, right? So now people are like, why is Brendan Smith scratched? Brendan Smith is scratched because the Rangers saw something in the playoffs in him that I didn't believe existed. If you remember, we talked about it, and I thought he played better than he normally would play, but it was such a small window. Right. They signed him on a deal based on that window, and he has proved nothing this year. So he deserves to sit. Now, Steve Kampfer being in, that's tough because the other day he didn't even know which side he should be on for that first goal, and that was rough. But maybe with a little more familiarity, a little more playing time, he'll play a little better. But they got to get it together, and so like I can't kill him for they're scrambling right now. First they're playing
shuffling
deck chairs on the Titanic for that.
Right, they're playing D'Angelo 20 minutes. Now they send him to the minors. Then they're playing Nick Holden. Now they're playing Steven Kampfer. I mean, it's not a good situation there.
No, and they have some young defensemen in Hartford that are in a year or two can be really good. And so they just signed Crowley, right, who played with the London Knights. Yeah. He's a really good defensive defenseman. But, he's not going to be ready for another – he probably needs this full season and maybe another full season to get there, And so, and that could be – wait, it's not Crowley. Hold on. What's his hold on. Crawley. I don't want to mispronounce. We have Chris Drury actually on our XM show this week talking about that player and Mike. We don't talk about my cat Anna, but we could, but we don't.
Yeah, we almost had Ty Anderson on the show. It would have been dueling cats because we've seen his cat jump up into the little cubby hole behind his camera.
But Brandon Crowley is a pretty good defenseman that they got as a free agent signing,
right?
And so but that's again, you're a couple of years. Sean Day, you're probably a year to 2 years. So they have some guys. They have to bridge the gap, and that's going to be the hard part for them is bridging the gap.
So let's just play out the scenario. So if they continue to be sort of mediocre, 3, 4, 6, 7 points out of a playoff spot, as the deadline is approaching, you still believe all they're going to do is trade off their UFAs. They're not going to make. They're not.
That's all they'll do. They'll trade off some UFAs for draft picks, and that's all they'll do. Yep.
Okay.
This is like if the team is going to not do well record-wise, it'll be like the Rangers in the 2000s.
One update on the Shipachev situation. He is in Russia. He's flown back to Russia, and there was a photo.
I still don't know which team he's got his sights on.
Well, no, I think we do. There was a photo of his hometown team, it's Severstal.
Oh,
and there was a photo of their trainer in the locker room, and in the background there was a Shipachev jersey.
So wait a minute. So for all the people talking about Shipachev and what might happen, there was one guy who was mentioning Severstal. What?
Yeah, I don't recall who it was though. It's just banging at my memory. I can't.
It was on this show, folks.
But who was it? It wasn't me. It wasn't. Maybe it was Kevin.
It's only because I got.
It was Kevin Allen. That's who it was.
Yeah. Okay. I get good information from there, but the point was, you heard it here first, so that's why you shouldn't miss this show.
Okay, on the schedule, there are 12 games tonight. We'll just mention some of them. Going backwards to forwards here. Sabres, Coyotes in Arizona. Coyotes are 1-11-1. The Sabres are not having exactly a great year themselves, 3-7-2. As we mentioned earlier, Pittsburgh goes to Calgary. Calgary's only 6-6. I'm a little surprised. I thought that they would, we knew they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but that team is too talented to be. I mean, it's only 12 games, but I thought they would get off to a much better start than this.
It's only 12 games, though.
Yeah, the Carolina at Colorado. Colorado 6-5, much better record than most people expected. Hurricanes still. Well, everybody's played 12, 13, 14. They've only played 10 games, so it's
Yeah, something to mention,
Mm.
and there's a reason I'm going to mention this with Calgary. So right now, this week on my XM show, we actually have Craig Conroy on talking about some of their guys. Tyler Parsons is one of them. Do you know where he's playing?
He's playing in the E, isn't he?
He's playing in the ECHL, but do you know what city?
No, I don't.
Kansas City. He's playing for the Kansas City Mavericks. Remember, this is the tester program for that building to see how hockey goes again in that building, because that building is an NHL-ready building.
Right.
And so, so right now, Parsons is there because you got John Gillies in the A. That they want those guys to be getting as many games as they can, because they're both really good. Because, again, Mike Smith is not going to be there forever.
No, but he's got another year on his contract after this.
Right.
One of those
Parsons
goaltenders
will be 21 next year, and Gillies, I think, will be 23.
Yeah.
Going on 24, and that's good for them.
One of those goaltenders will be Smith's backup next year, because Eddie Lack's contract will be up unless they renew Eddie Lack's contract.
Right.
So, Toronto had 3 goaltenders. They sent Kazimir Kaskisuo to Chicago because of Vegas's goaltending problems to fill in, and they're playing. And then they're splitting duties between Pickard and Garrett Sparks. But they had originally sent Kaskisuo down to the ECHL because they didn't want him sitting around doing nothing. So it's better to play even at a lower level than to sit at the.
Now, Mike, just so I could save you the hate. If we don't mention, there's this massive breaking news right now, and the chat room has been trying to tell us this for practically the whole show.
Okay.
So Antti Raanta is playing tonight. That's the massive news.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
And I'm glad you treated it with the care that it deserves.
If I had that music, anyway. Okay. Dallas and the Winnipeg Jets is another game tonight. The Canadiens, coming off a 8-3 thrashing of the Ottawa Senators, play in Minnesota against the Wild, who, without Zach Parise, they're 4-4-2 right now. Flyers, second of back-to-back nights. They play. This is a tough back-to-back. Chicago on Wednesday and St. Louis on Thursday. That's bad.
Come on, that's not that hard.
That's pretty rough.
And they play Colorado on Saturday, who's been pretty good too.
Yeah. The Blue Jackets, who are 8-4 right now, play the Panthers, who are 4-6-1. Most likely, James Reimer will be starting that game because I can't envision them starting Anthony.
That's a win for Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, I can't emphasize it enough. This is a team I think that has talent, but the goaltending is going to undo.
No, they can score goals, but they have to stop goals.
Yeah,
they have to prevent them.
The Rangers play the red hot Tampa Bay Lightning, who are 10-2-1.
I'm going to give you the odds of the Rangers winning this game.
0.
I'm not going to give you not Blutarski's grade point average, but I'll give them a 5% chance.
It was interesting. Steven Stamkos was interviewed on Primetime Sports in Canada and made the statement that he doesn't think that he'll ever feel 100% again. Based on the fact that, how many injuries he's had. Now, based on the fact he's had a great start of the season, if you were to, say, for example, he had signed with Toronto or Detroit or Buffalo and had the same injury. He comes back and he's performing like that, but he says what he says. And you have 7 more years left on a contract, and he says he's not feeling 100%. I would be scared if I was.
No, I wouldn't be. Dude, he's got 24 points.
I know. He's having. I don't understand the statement. He's having a great.
I do understand the statement. The statement is basically, I don't think I could score 60 goals anymore.
Okay.
You got to remember, when you're that good and you've reached that level, players know, look, Mike, I don't want to say this to you, and I'm breaking this to you, but I'm not 100% compared to what I was when I was 20-something either.
I'm better than I was when I was 30.
You're not.
Yes,
no.
I am.
No.
I improve with age. I'm like
I've heard your previous radio stuff. You were better back in the day.
Jeez. Okay. Thank you for that.
No, but my point is none of us are 100% compared to like when we're in our prime. I think that's all he's saying, and I'm not worried about it from his perspective because he's on pace to get 80 points this year.
Yeah. The Detroit Red Wings play the Ottawa Senators, who have only lost twice in regulation. Already, after 12 games, they've got 5 loser points. That's at the end of the season, when you have all those single points, it does add up and it does help you get into the playoffs. But I'm sure that.
But you have to figure out how to win sometimes, and that's again. They got to beat the Capitals, but then again, the Capitals have to beat them too. The Capitals, what's happened to them right now? I mean, they're not the same right this moment.
I mean, the Capitals.
And it's their defense.
The Capitals are 5-6-1. They're playing the Islanders, who are 7-4-1.
Yeah, this is a game the Capitals need to win. And if Holtby's playing, Holtby needs to shine like Holtby used to shine too. He's got a good save percentage, but I don't think he has the same sort of presence in net that he did a couple of years ago.
Thing is, the Capitals can be shut down now. It's easier said than done. And Ovechkin, he scored a ton of goals to start off the season. But again, you have Ovechkin, you have Backstrom. If you shut down Kuznetsov and Ovechkin, Backstrom is more of a playmaker than he is a pure scorer. So you can maybe get away with putting your top checkers against Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. And if you not to say let Backstrom have free reign, but you have a good chance of beating them if you can shut Ovechkin down. And
I think Backstrom is like the Godzilla to Ovechkin, who's King Kong. And the thing about Godzilla was you could shut Godzilla down. You can never shut down King Kong, right? Because King Kong, like for a little while, you might knock him off his perch.
Does that mean TJ Oshie is Megalon?
Rodan. I think Rodan, because Rodan, you never knew what you were getting in Rodan. Sometimes Rodan was just unbelievable and fantastic, and then other times Rodan was just invisible. And Oshie, I like Oshie. I think he's got moments, but he needs to have more moments for what he's getting paid. At least that's from my perspective. But Backstrom is that weird kind of dude, and so I'm going to call him the Godzilla of this team.
Vegas visits the Boston Bruins on their lengthy East Coast road trip. Vegas is 8-3, but lost to the Rangers 6-4 on Tuesday, I believe. The Bruins are 4-3-3. For Vegas, it's going to be Maxime Lagacé again in net. Now, I had somebody ask me the question, why doesn't Vegas trade for even a backup just to get them through this? Right now, you've got Fleury out with a concussion, but he's day-to-day. Subban is going to be out for maybe 2 or 3 more weeks. Dansk is a day-to-day thing. They're not going to trade for a goaltender because in 2 weeks they're going to have too many goaltenders. If this was
got it out.
Yeah, if this was a team, and I also say this, if this was a team that was looking at a realistic chance of making the playoffs, and maybe that's their mindset, but I still think if they were say Dallas or if they were Los Angeles, they would go out and get themselves a stopgap for a few weeks, but they're not. So they're sort of playing with house money, and they're still 8-3. So why not?
Yeah. Now, because you intentionally don't want to talk about a good story, we should mention that Brian Boyle skated for 15 minutes last night.
He started, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was. Well,
I know we talked about the Devils, but I realized
we talked too quickly about the Devils. I'm sure Devils fans are pissed off, but it is a good story. I'm very glad to see Brian Boyle back. He was he had a good 15 or 16 games with the Maple Leafs last year. He's an effective veteran player, and he was struck with the same sort of rare form of leukemia that Jason Blake had a few years back. And it's miraculous that this form of leukemia can be controlled and cured, I believe, with medication. So I'm very happy for him. I know he's got a young family, so it's great that he's going to be able to continue his career and hopefully, knock on wood, stay healthy.
Yeah.
Last game, I planned it this way: Maple Leafs and LA Kings, second of back-to-back.
Wait, did we mention the Bruins?
Yeah.
Oh, we did? Okay, we should mention that.
We mentioned it yesterday, but
bring it up again, though.
Yeah, but David Backes, I mean, when the news came out that he was having surgery to remove part of his colon, I mean, the first thing that
That's all we knew. That's all.
yeah,
We knew.
the first thing that I thought of is the C word, and thankfully it's not that, it's diverticulitis,
Right.
which is I think it's a paralyzing of part of the colon,
Yeah.
and it's rather painful. Now that they take out a section of his colon, he'll be out for 8 weeks, but it sounds like he'll be back 100% after that. So
Yeah, he will. But the idea is it's going to hurt right now because
yeah.
they're not the greatest team to begin with.
No, and I mean they've dealt with big injuries so far this year with Rask. McAvoy was hurt in preseason, but right now they're a one game over 500, so they're sort of weathering it. But they're not a deep organization right now, so they need all hands on deck. As long as they can keep Pasternak and Marchand in the lineup, they have enough scoring, but they need Rask to play and that young defense to come through. As I was saying, the other game on the schedule is the Leafs and the Kings. The two teams met last Monday. Leafs won 3-2 in Toronto. It's going to be Curtis McElhinney playing the second of back-to-back for Toronto, which gives the LA a major edge because McElhinney is, he's a good backup, but he's not Frederik Andersen, who's played two really good
Is this a game that even if he's not looking great, they're going to just let him ride it out because it's just a day off and that's it? They don't care?
Well, they play in St. Louis on Saturday, so I don't think they want to bring Anderson in because he's going to start on and Anderson has started. The Leafs have played 14 games; they're 8-6. Anderson has played 13 of the 14 games.
Yeah.
So McElhinney is going to start, and I would even if the Leafs give up 7 goals, I think McElhinney is going to stay in for all of them. So, okay, good show, Russ.
Mike, I got one more bit of breaking news.
Oh, okay.
Looks like Kate Upton will be off the market as of this weekend. Are you upset about that?
I thought they were already married.
No, they were not.
Oh.
But they're getting married this weekend, her and Justin Verlander.
Oh, well, congratulations. But and also Carlos.
That wasn't even like heartfelt. I mean, could you even try a little less?
No, Carlos Correa apparently proposed to his girlfriend in the post-game celebration.
Yeah, that was nice. And it was funny the way he planned it out. I heard it. Although Harold Reynolds seemed very confused by the whole thing because he thought he was playing with the ring in his back pocket, and Correa kept saying, no. I gave it to the locker room guy, and I said, I don't want to jinx the team. When the third out occurs, then please bring it out, and then I'll do it. And that's great. It was cool. I saw that on the field. It was nice.
So when they get eliminated from the playoffs next year, that's when she'll file for divorce. For us going, I'm Michael and Jeff. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.